Hello, hola, namaste, salam everyone. This is Tyra Ordain, your handsome cricket rock star. There's an old saying that says only rain stops cricket, and that's the truth. The first ever test match played at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy was affected by the dreaded Mother Nature as only 67 out of the minimum of 90 overs was possible on the opening day of the first of two tests between West Indies and Pakistan played in South Trinidad. The day began with the West Indies captain Roston Chase winning the toss and electing to bat, aiming at accessing dominance on their home turf. However, pacing the first part of the day proved difficult, and by the time bad light and rain brought a premature end to the day's play, the host had reached in a comfortable position at 194 for the loss of 3 wickets after 67 overs. Despite the early setbacks and the multiple weather interruptions, the men in maroon managed to stretch and stabilize the ship. It was a day which was rewarded by extreme patience, and while Pakistan kept things tight, the West Indies closed day one, holding the slight psychological advantage thanks to their resilient middle order with Kavem Hodge and Shai Hope. The opening session was heavily dictated by Pakistan's inexperienced bowling attack. Openers Brandon King and Tej Shandapal found it very difficult against the moving ball early on, and in their opening partnership they managed a very sluggish 13 runs before the tourists secured the first breakthrough, where Brandon King departed after chopping on just for 12 runs off the bowling of Mohammad Abbas, who by the way secured the first breakthrough for the Pakistani team. And that left West Indies, as usual, one down early on. But the first session was further hampered by rain, forcing the teams to take an early luncheon interval, with the scorecard reading a precarious 23 for the loss of 1 wicket, which you could say was an okay start, but sluggish in my standards, or should I say modern day cricket standards. And it reflected by the sheer dominance of the Pakistani quicks and also the slow defense of the West Indies top order, in particular Tej Shandapal, who was playing so defensively, unlike Brandon King, who really wanted to get a move on. The post-lunch period did demanded application alongside patience, and Kavem Hodge walked into the wicket at number 3, and exactly that in mind, he and Tej demonstrated immense grit, forging a crucial 51-run stand for the second wicket. And just as the hosts seemed to be laying a solid platform, Pakistan struck back when Amir Jamal, in his first test in over 2 years, dismissed Shandapal for only 21. Amir Jangu then injected a brief momentum into West Indies' first innings, striking a couple of boundaries and a maximum, but his innings came to an end at 21 off the bowling of Mohammad Abbas via the DRS, where Abbas trapped him in front. However, the umpire overturned it, and Babar Azam and co ended up taking the decision to the third umpire, which led to it being overturned after Hawkeye showed 3 reds. And that was just before the tea interval, leaving the hosts at 127 for the loss of 3. Heading into the final session, the pressure was squarely on Kavem Hodge and limited over skipper Shai Hope. The duo responded brilliantly, absorbing the pressure and slowly turning the tide against the fatigued Pakistani bowling lineup, which I said earlier on was very inexperienced because they've dropped all of its senior men because of poor performances. And yet again, Pakistan, typical old Pakistan, have struggled. Now, the old Pakistan team of yesteryears, they would show up so much fight, but this current Pakistan lineup, I'm sorry to say, was disappointing. But the 4-wicket partnership did cross the 50-run mark, which pushed the West Indies past 150 runs on the board. The visitors, they tried desperately searching for a breakthrough, but before they could capitalize with the older ball, fading light forced the umpires to call off play just before the scheduled 6 o'clock cutoff time. Now, originally, play would have been called off for the day around 5:30, but due to the inclement weather late in the morning session into the early afternoon, play was extended by an hour. Kavem Hodge was the star of the show for West Indies on the day. He remains undefeated on 83 of 181 deliveries, while Shai Hope is still out there on a watchful 39 of 91 deliveries. For the Pakistanis, it was veteran seamer Mohammad Abbas who was the standout performer on the day for the men in green with economical figures of 2 for 44 from 19 overs, and I gotta say, he was very, very impressive, and it just goes to show why have Pakistan have wasted this man for the last 5 6 years when you were playing washed up guys like the Shaheens, the Naseems, and the Hassan Alis, and the list goes on. This guy is one of the most economical Pakistani bowlers they've had in such a long time, I must say. But they keep him on the sidelines all the time and only have him for overseas tours. He can play in all conditions. We saw it in UAE years ago before COVID, where he was very detrimental to the opponent batting lineup. And he bowled an impressive 6 medians on the day, and it goes to show this guy was wasted badly for the last several years. Amir Jamal, on the other hand, who I mentioned earlier, is playing his first test in 2 years. The last time he played a test match, he was dropped because of some controversial thing he had on his hand, but he was expensive on the day. 10 overs bowled, 54 runs he conceded, but got the 1 wicket of Tej Narain. And the other bowlers they had in the lineup, Karam Shehzad, none for 32 from 14. He was economical. And so was Muhammad Ali. Out of the 4 Pakistani pacers, 3 of them were economical. 1 was very expensive, and they need to work on that. And they're playing just 1 specialist spinner in Ali Usman. And I was quite surprised that they left out the other ball-headed veteran, Sajid, who caused them so much rampage. And I'll get to that part in a little bit, but Pakistan, they did execute their game plan early in the morning period, utilizing the overcast conditions, which stifled the run rate. However, the West Indies batters, they threw the maturity out there, especially through Kavem Hodge, who I must say has survived quite a good bit before scoring. But overall, I have to admit this, West Indies captain Roston Chase made an excellent decision to bat first despite the overhead conditions, and it's so far turning out to be a very good one. But the batters, they need to stay there for at least a couple of more sessions and just bat the Pakistanis out of this game. So far, their batters are playing beautifully well, and they got to credit Kavem Hodge and Shai Hope for all the determination out there. So as the other guys who stuck it out in the first hour or so. But if you're a Pakistani supporter, you have to ask yourselves this question. Why on earth would the management leave out one of their senior spinners in the team? And I'm talking about the ball-headed guy, the off spinner Sajid Khan. Now, the last time when West Indies and Pakistan faced off in Pakistan almost 2 years ago, this lad was extremely deadly dangerous on those turning tracks the last time around when these two teams faced. But what is also mind-boggling was to see their fast bowlers, not one of them clocking over 140 kph with the exception of Amir Jamal. But the fastest bowler on the day, beg your pardon, was Muhammad Ali. He almost crossed 85 miles an hour out of all the bowlers. And you're telling me your out-of-form express pacemen who have a habit of reaching 85, 90 miles an hour are not there because of poor form? Forget about them. But if this is the way Pakistan is going without these express fast bowlers, they're going to suffer for quite a long period of time. Muhammad Ali, who has been out of the team for quite some time, he was excellent. So was Abbas and Karam Shehzad, even though not being fast. But what is puzzling on the West Indies side of things was themselves. Why they decided not to give Joshua Bishop a debut despite being ridiculously good throughout the last couple of domestic seasons for Barbados. Given how the pitch may deteriorate a bit later on, I can understand that they have Jomel Warwick on there, who was extremely brilliant the last time in Pakistan when I think he got 9 or 10 wickets in the second test match, would help them end that 35-year losing streak in Pakistan. But that was almost 3 years ago. And what is also controversial off the field too was Azari Joseph declining selection. Now, I don't know what's going on with Azari Joseph or what's going on inside his head. I don't know whatever it is, but he needs to sort out his personal problems very quickly because playing for West Indies is a huge privilege. And what is also puzzling too is how hasn't Kevin Wickham, who was scoring all those runs for Barbados this season, not given a look in, given the fact how West Indies have had so many batting problems in the past. And then to also sticking with the spin department, What is also ridiculous, in my opinion, was Gudakish Muti not even making the test side, which continues to be very questionable. And why would you allow? Why would you have a guy who has been the leading wicket taker for Guyana in the 4-day championship not make it into the test team ahead of Warwickon? It says criminal. Very questionable to say the least. And yet, he's playing in the Global Super League for Amazon Warriors when he should have been in this side and in the 11 as the specialist spinner who can also bat quite handy as well, unlike Warwickon, who I mentioned. Just remember, the same Warwickon that took 9-10 plus wickets in Pakistan the last time was included. I don't know what was the reason, but his role, Warwickon's role, needs to be very questionable. How you can give him vice captain and be on the sidelines? It's ridiculous to say the least. A whole lot of shenanigans has been going on with West Indies with regards to its lineup, but I won't go any further. That's gonna do it for this video. Hope you guys liked it. And who loves you and who do you love? This is Tyrell Ordin, your handsome cricket rock star, signing out.